Given that as of Sunday when this video goes live, the countdown for Alton Towers to open officially for the 2024 theme park season will have begun, I've started to go into the sort of realms of booking trips and going into when I want to visit with certain friends and everything. And when talking to one of my friends about a possible trip to Alton Towers, the subject matter came up of what do we do at the park if it rains. And it got me thinking that although there's a lot of us who go to the parks all the time, so sort of know what rides to go on if it rains and what to do because you're sort of in the loop of visiting the park, for people who haven't visited before, the idea of it raining can kind of be a bit of an intimidating one because it can put such a big effect on your day if you don't know what to do the second it starts and where to go. So I thought, why not make a video going through my recommendations of what to do at the Alton Towers Resort when it starts to rain. Because let's be honest, we're in England, it rains an awful lot. And to be honest, it's very rare that I go to Alton Towers for a trip, especially for when I'm there for 2 days, and it doesn't rain at all, even in the summer sometimes, but I guess that's just the beautiful English weather that we have really, isn't it? So then I do just want to make the point, this video is obviously meant for people who don't visit the Alton Towers Resort very often, so won't know the parts to do in the rain. I'm sure there'll be a lot of you watching who'll think the points I make in this video are so obvious, and to be fair, they may be, but I just thought, why not put it into a video format? And I would love to hear your suggestions of what to do. If I've missed something out in this video that you think you could add to it, please do put it in the comments, because I always say on this channel, I want to make it a sort of thing that if people watch the videos, it's everyone groups together to sort of put their points forward, and I can't explain how often I read through those comments and go, I can't believe I didn't think of that, they're making such a good point. So please do put any points you might have about this in the comments. So then, first up, it makes sense to discuss what actually happens when it rains at the park, because although it may seem that if it rains, the rides instantly shut, that isn't necessarily true, even for the outdoor rides. And although inclement weather or rain or snow or whatever it is that you could encounter while you're at the park can affect the rides eventually, they do have running requirements in that sometimes if it's just a little drizzle or a little windy, the rides can safely operate within those conditions. And I have had many rides on Nemesis, as this season will open as Nemesis Reborn, can't wait to get on it, or Rita and Wicker especially I have memories of going on when it was torrential downpour. It felt like hail you were going into it that quick. So there are rides that can operate in these perfectly safely, and if they are open, you're more than able to go on them. But I will just make the point and warn you, they feel a little bit more wild because obviously it's wetter in the ride, and it is obviously, it gets you soaked because you're riding a roller coaster in the rain. But if that doesn't bother you, then what's stopping you really? It won't really affect your day at all in terms of getting on those rides. However, if the weather does affect the ride's availability in that they have to close, there are a lot of rides that you can still do that are not weather dependent. And I am of course talking about the indoor attractions at the park, with some of the most prominent being that I love to get a ride on when I'm at the park, Terra. It's an absolutely great indoor attraction, with obviously it being an indoor drop tower. I guess it's technically kind of a maze section at the end, which is really great. I love that ride so much. It really does hold a special place in my heart, mainly because when it originally opened, I couldn't get on it. So now it's like a thing of, I want to make sure I get a handful of rides on this thing every time I'm at the park. But as well as that, you've also got Hex, which as of this season will be back up again and running, which is great to see. And that obviously, hopefully, as of this season, will not be dependent on if it rains. It won't affect it because it's indoors. But yes, it's a great fun family attraction to go on. It is, of course, the Vekoma Madhouse. It's a really good ride and is great to go on, and is actually my favourite interpretation of this ride in the world, just because I like the story behind it with the chained oak and everything. You've also got Gangster Granny, which although it isn't personally my favourite ride at the park, more because I've been on it with my little sister far too many times now, and it isn't exactly the most exciting ride for me, but I guess it's not marketed for me really, is it? So that's fair enough, but if you're there with your family, it is a very good family attraction to go on. And as well as that, we obviously can't forget, new for last year, the Curse Alton Manor, which is of course the refurbishment of Jewel to make it back to a proper ghost train again. And rumour has it, there's going to be even more adaptations added to it for the beginning of this season. Obviously, last season for Scarefest, they worked on parts that people have said needed a little bit of work in guest feedback. I've heard that they've also done a bit of that for this season as well, which will be great to see. And I really do love the Curse Alton Manor. It's a ride which is a sort of a bit of love-hate for a lot of people, really depending on what your opinion is on if you liked Jewel more because of the shooting sort of target element of the ride, or whether you like more of a dark ride experience. But I personally love the Curse Alton Manor, just because I really do like ghost trains and when they try and pull you into their story, which the Curse does a brilliant job of, and it really is a great ride to go on. And I have actually found that ride being my sort of refuge when it rains, as that's the ride I'll go on now, because it's one which I would ride anyway, even if it wasn't raining. So when it does start raining, it makes sense to get your ride on it done then. And of course, we can't forget, you obviously got the Sea Life exhibit, forgotten what it's called, I'll put the name on screen now, but obviously in Mutiny Bay, there's a sea sea life element, which was also open for the pirate takeover. It's great fun to go around, although personally I kind of find sea life attractions a bit boring if you pay for them. This one's included in your ticket, is part of the park's attractions, and is actually a very good one that I've been in. It's quite well themed and is really good fun to look around. So it's definitely worth going into, especially if it's a thing of you're in Mutiny Bay and want something to do while it's raining outside. It makes sense to sort of pop in and have a look around, really, doesn't it? And on top of that, I do have to mention this one in the video because it is technically something you could do at the park. You do have the Alton Towers Dungeons. Now, I'll be honest with you here, because I said on this channel I'm always going to be 100% honest. I'm personally not a fan of the Alton Towers Dungeons. Now, what I will say, don't obviously base if you're going to go on it or not on what I say about it. Read into what other people think as well. It's what I always say about theme park opinions. Read other people's and see what you think, see what you agree with and disagree with. That's what I can't stress enough these days. Form your own opinions on it. Don't listen to what other people tell you and just go, well, they must be right then. But I personally would not go in this attraction just because of the reason of it's an upcharge on top of your ticket price, even if you have a Merlin pass, which if you consider, if you went to London or Blackpool or wherever the other permanent dungeon attractions are, you get in on your Merlin pass. This one you have to pay for. And in terms of the quality compared to other dungeons I've done, like especially the London dungeons, which is my personal favourite, it doesn't hold up at all in my opinion, unfortunately, and it's just not worth the money. Now, it might be something you're interested in going in if it's a thing of you really like the dungeons attractions, but just do bear in mind, it is an upcharge, and in my opinion, you can get a much better dungeons experience if you go somewhere else in the UK. But I do have to say it's probably just me being bitter because that ride building used to obviously host, it was originally Toyland Tours, but for my childhood, I remember going on the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory boat ride, and that is just sort of stuck in my memory for life. So that's probably why I've got an already disdain towards the dungeons, because I just love that ride so much, especially the memories of that glass elevator scene. It was just a great ride. But obviously, yeah, read into it, see what you think, but do bear in mind that you do have to pay more money to go in it. It's not included in your ticket price. After that, it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but a lot of the time it will cross over your head till the end of the day, and that is if you want to buy merchandise at the park, it makes sense to go into those shops while it's raining because, well, at the end of the day, the Tower Street sort of, is it Towers Trading, I think the merch store is called, is very busy, and it's a bit annoying sort of have to go around and look at things and isn't the nicest of shopping experiences when it's busy. It isn't bad, but obviously it isn't quiet by any regards at the end of the day for obvious reasons, which is why I often, even if it's not raining, go in there at lunch and get stuff if I want to buy something, because it's just a quieter shop. You can sort of have a nicer look around with a bit more sort of space to yourself to wander around and have a chat with your mates while walking around and looking at things, and it makes sense to get it out of the way while it's raining and those rides aren't open for you to get on. And after that, it sounds obvious to say, but if it is raining, because obviously rain, hopefully when you're at the park, won't be lasting all day, it will be in like a stint where it rains in the day, it makes sense to go and get lunch while it's raining, because although I said, oh, if you don't mind getting wet, just go on the rides then, sometimes it can sort of put a dampener on the rest of your day. That was an unintentional pun. I'm so clever, aren't I? But yeah, sometimes if it's raining, it can mean that you're damp for the rest of the day and it's kind of a bit annoying. If you want to keep dry, go into somewhere like you've got Costa or you've got Woodcutters or somewhere around the park where you can go indoors and eat, like Burger Kitchen or many more could be named, and go and eat your lunch then, which will just make sense if you don't want to get soaked. I've often done it, to be honest, more as of recent, because a few years ago I used to do the, well, it's raining, oh, but Rita's open, I'll go on it anyway. But enough rides in the rain where you get soaked, sometimes you go, I just can't be bothered today getting soaked. So that is something to bear in mind that you could do while it rains. After that, something which I don't do nearly enough, and is something which I do need to check if it's available this season. I'll put it in the video because it might be, but the towers themselves are open for you to sort of look around certain areas. There's obviously certain parts shut off, but when it's not being used to set up for Scarefest, there is a lot of areas of the towers that are open for you to venture into with signposts telling you where you can go. Obviously, do follow the signposts of where you can go and do check that it is open for you to go into. But if it is, it's great to look into and you can really see how amazing this building is, because it is the pinnacle that the towers was built around and it is a beautiful building to look at. So it is worth looking around it. And the last point I need to make is one which is very important, and is one which, if you're spending money to go to the park, it can be something quite important to a lot of people. And that is that Alton Towers does have a rainy day guarantee policy, which essentially is that if it rains for a significant amount of time and it means that ride availability isn't at its utmost, which will affect the guest experience at the park, I think it's a voucher you get now, where you go into guest services, they'll give you a voucher and you can use that code on it to get a free return to the park at another date of your choice, which is great to have really. It kind of, I think, really does show when a park cares about guest experiences, because it means that although that day might have not been the best, you can return at a later date so you can experience all the ride offerings and everything that the park really wants you to go on and get on those rides that you may have missed out on doing that day. Now, I do have to make the point, I struggled to find it on their website. Now, I'm pretty sure this policy is still in place, but I probably just, well, I've not got great eyes anyway, I probably just couldn't find it through it. But from what I've seen online and messaging friends who have used the system as well in the past and what they understand of it, I think there is a policy of it as to consecutively rain for a certain time period. Now, that might not be true. That's just something I had in the back of my head. That might be another park, so don't take that for guarantee. But I could see, and everyone's backed up here, I think it's more based on the factor of the park will announce it, because they will announce it even over the tannoys and everything. You'll be able to see, I think there's a date calendar on the website of days that they have actually brought this policy into place for. And on these days, they say that they'll bring it into place if the ride availability is not at its max sort of availability, I guess, of all the rides aren't open, if the rain has affected it and they've had to close the rides for obvious reasons, just to make sure that the guests are safe, because obviously towers will operate like every park should, making sure guest safety is their number one priority. So that is a great system that they bring into place, and it is definitely one utilising if you go to the park and it rains and they do bring this policy into place, because it means you can get back and get on those rides. So then, thank you for watching. I'm sure a lot of you have watched this and gone, I know all of that. But if this video did help you at all, please do like and subscribe. It really does make the world of difference and really does help this channel out. If any of you have points which you think I've missed in this video that you think would be logical for other people to know about, please do put them in the comments. It's really great to see. And often I'll read through it and go, oh, that's a great point. I can't believe I didn't think of that. So please do put it in the comments. And thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.